Welcome to Pastor Andrew's Inspirations. If you enjoy these videos, please click on the red subscribe button below the video and click the bell for more. Welcome to our online church, a congregation made up of many from around the world. No offering is necessary. Subscribing and watching videos will keep us alive under God's watchful eye. Today, we will be learning about the ancient country of Chaldea. Chaldea was a country that existed between the late 10th and mid-6th centuries BCE, after which the country and its people were absorbed and assimilated into Babylonia. Semitic speaking, it was located in the marshy land of the far southeastern corner of Mesopotamia and briefly came to rule Babylon. The Hebrew Bible uses the term Kasdim, and this is translated as Chaldeans in the Great Old Testament, although there is some dispute as to whether Kasdim in fact means Chaldean or refers to the South Mesopotamian Chaldea. During a period of weakness in the East Semitic speaking kingdom of Babylonia, new tribes of West Semitic speaking migrants arrived in the region from the Levant between the 11th and 9th centuries BCE. The earliest waves consisted of Sutians and Aramaeans, followed by a century or so later by the Chaldea, a group who became known later as the Chaldeans or the Chaldees. These migrations did not affect the powerful kingdom of Assyria in the northern half of Mesopotamia, which repelled these incursions. The short-lived 11th dynasty of the kings of Babylon is conventionally known to historians as the Chaldean dynasty, although the last rulers, Nabonidus and his son Belshazzar, were from Assyria. These nomadic Chaldeans settled in the far southeastern portion of Babylonia, chiefly on the left bank of the Euphrates. Chaldea proper was in fact only the plain in the far southeast formed by the deposits of the Euphrates and the Tigris, extending about 400 miles along the course of these rivers and averaging about 100 miles in width. The name Chaldea is a Latinization of the Greek Chaldea. The name appears in Hebrew in the Bible as Kasdim and in Aramaic as Chaldo. Chaldea generally refers to the low marshy alluvial land around the estuaries of the Tigris and Euphrates, which at the time discharged their waters through separate mouths into the sea. The king of Chaldea was also called the king of Bityakin, just as the kings of Babylonia and Assyria were regularly styled simply king of Babylon or Ashur, the capital city in each case. Chaldea came to be used in a wider sense of Mesopotamia in general, following the ascendancy of the Chaldeans during 608 to 557 BCE. Chaldeans were not a native Mesopotamian people, but were late 10th or early 9th century BCE West Semitic Levantine migrants to the southeastern corner of the region, who had played no part in the previous 3,000 years' civilization and history. The ancient Chaldeans seem to have migrated into Mesopotamia sometime between 940 to 860 BCE. A century or so after other new Semitic arrivals. The first appear in written record in the annals of the Assyrian king Shalmaneser III during the 850s BCE. The Chaldeans were able to keep their identity despite the dominant Assyro-Babylonian culture, although some were not able to, as was the case for the earlier Amorites, Kassites, and Suchans before them by the time Babylon fell in 539 BCE. In the Hebrew Bible, the prophet Abraham is stated to have originally come from Ur of the Chaldees. The region that the Chaldeans eventually made their homeland was in relatively poor southeastern Mesopotamia, at the head of the Persian Gulf. Important Chaldea regions in southeastern Babylonian were Bet Yakin, the original area the Chaldeans settled in on the Persian Gulf, Bet Dakuri, Bet Adini, Bet Amukani, and Bet Shalani. Chaldean leaders had by this time already adopted Assyro-Babylonian names, religion, language, and customs, indicating that they had become Akkadianized to a great degree. The Chaldeans remained quietly ruled by the native Babylonians for the next 72 years, only coming to historical prominence for the first time in Babylonia in 780 BCE. A previously unknown Chaldean named Marduk-apla-uzer usurped the throne from the native Babylonian king Marduk-belzeri, 790 to 780 BCE. The Chaldeans awaited periods when Assyrian kings were distracted elsewhere in their vast empire, or engaged in internal conflicts. Then, in alliance with other powers stronger than themselves, they made a bid for control over Babylonia. The Persians considered this Chaldean societal class to be masters of reading and writing, and especially versed in all forms of incantation, sorcery, witchcraft, and the magical arts. They spoke of astrologists and astronomers as Chaldeans, and it is used with a specific meaning in the book of Daniel and by classical writers such as Strabo. The terms Chaldee and Chaldean were henceforth found in Hebraic and biblical sources dating from the 6th and 5th centuries BCE, and referring specifically to the period of the Chaldean dynasty of Babylon. The absence of Chaldeans from the historical record continues throughout the Macedonian, Seleucid, Parthian, Roman, Sassanid, and Byzantine empires, and after the Arab Islamic conquest and Mongol Empire. The fame of the Chaldeans was still solid at the time of Cicero, 106 to 43 BC, who in one of his speeches mentions Chaldean astrologers, and speaks of them more than once in his De Divisione. Other classical Latin writers who speak of them as distinguished for their knowledge of astronomy and astrology are Pliny, Valerius Maximus, Allus Gellius, Cato, Lucretius, and Juvenal. Horace in his Carpe Diem Ode speaks of the Babylonian calculations, the horoscopes of the astrologers consulted regarding the future. This is the ancient country of Chaldea. Adonai Nisi, the Lord is our banner. Remember, if you like these videos, please click on the red subscribe button below and click the bell for notifications. God's blessings be upon us all.